Hello and welcome back to the Cocked Dice. We're here for another conversion video. This time we are tackling a Blood Raven. For anyone who follows the channel, you'll know that I collect Blood Ravens. I think they're a cracking chapter. I love the games and the PC when they're around. I started collecting this Blood Raven force back when 8th edition was released, and I've built it purely out of Primaris. Timeline in 40k has travelled on just a wee old bit. It's about time I started revisiting some of my early squads and giving them some upgrades. So we're going to tackle a Blood Raven veteran. Basically, we're going to blend this guy with these guys and we'll see what you got. So I've raided my Bix box and come up with this pile of stuff. And from this, we're going to build our guy tonight. So what have we got here? Obviously, we've got a bunch of Intercessor bits. I've part built this model and I've left his leg off because we're going to build him a bionic leg. That and that are going to form the most part of our bionic leg. Obviously it's a shock probe thingy from our mech kit. Rifle from the Dulac. I mainly just want it for this barrel. I think this is from an Imperial Knight. I've had it kicking around after I bought some Knight bits years ago. It looks like a pretty good foot candidate for me. Chainsword, I've picked this one up from the Vanguard Veterans kit, I believe. There's a whole bunch of really snazzy chainswords in there, so that'll be cool. What else we got? Some Nighthawk bits. I was planning on making some sort of loincloth for him, and obviously he's a veteran, he's been around a bit, I want it to be really knocked about. This seems to be a pretty good head for this guy. Quite simply because it's got a bionic eye, and if you look on this side of it, there we go, it's got this cool little aerial thing. So I thought it was a pretty awesome head, probably from the Death Watch kill team type box. That looks like a fairly good candidate for a knee pad. Some extra wires and cables just to fit around his leg. I'm a big fan of these little shoulder shields, so I'll be adding one of those to him. I've got a bunch of purity seals, always useful. What better way to show off his veteran status? What better way than, you know what I mean. Under the bit I've got in here, I've got a couple of skulls. Dead bits of enemies is always a sure sign that you are a veteran of your campaigns. And that's it. It's just a random collection of bits I've pulled out and I thought I could put something together with. So we'll try it and see what happens. First job is to build up your Intercessor, clean him up, get all the mold lines off, build most of the body except for the limb that you want to turn into some bionics. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick this guy to a base and give him a bit of time to dry. I'm going to do this and before I stick his upper leg on and the foot to the base, so I can figure out the order in which, the size in which I can build the leg. So let's just pop him on a base quickly. So here he is, and obviously I've not stuck this leg on yet, because we're going to build over it. You can kind of see whereabouts that sits. What we're going to do now is cut this leg up. I'm going to cut it in two places. We're going to cut just above the knee pad here, or where the knee pad would be. Then we're going to cut it off the back and we'll get this little V shape here, and we'll use that to then build out the rest of his leg. So we've got the bit of the leg that we want, and we'll stick him straight on here. Doesn't need any pose changing, but it'll fit just there nicely. So there we go, that needs a little bit of time to dry, and we'll pull out the other bits and pieces we're going to need for his leg. So obviously this piece is going to be his foot. I'll turn it that way around, so this will be the front of his foot, that'll be the rear side of it. I'm going to use this piece as a knee pad, I'm going to glue that on next, so it gives me somewhere to drop on some pieces. I'm going to cut down this here, and just at the bottom here, and that's going to be the front of his bionic leg. I'm then going to use the barrel of this rifle, taking it off right back here, and I'll leave this end until I can fit it and check where it fits. It looks like some sort of piston. I'm also going to look to use this piece here around his ankle, and probably the shoulder pad too, over the front of his foot. I'm going to try and basically use as many bits of this as I can, because it's a really cool piece with loads of really useful bits of tech on it. So the first job tonight was sticking his knee pad on. That is going to do two things. One, it's going to obviously replicate the knee pad on the other side and give him a little bit of balance here, but it also, if you turn it on this way, it gives us a really handy piece to drop some extra bits onto. and just strengthens this leg as we build it up, and it will give me a kind of angle to go down from the back of his leg. This is going to go on next, and will help me sight the foot. So from a really rough fit there, we can see we need to take 1 millimetre or 2 off the length of this piece. So we're literally just going to do that. We're going to trim a little bit off. See that? There you go. And then we'll try and fit it again. And just rinse and repeat this process until you can make sure that it fits. So there we have the beginnings of our bionic leg. Some things to note is you want to try and get whatever you're using as foot lined up with the knee. Because generally speaking, if you look at this leg, the toes of the foot line up along the shin bone there. And this is being our proxy shin bone. You can also see I've pushed it as far forward on the leg as possible. I want some space to build down the back here. The next piece we're going to drop in is going to be a bit of a piston. We'll drop that in right behind there and just slim off the back of that a little bit. So I've cleaned this piece up. I've trimmed the bottom down just a little bit and I've given it a little notch so that it's going to fit neatly onto his leg here. So that gives us the back of our leg. Now obviously this is a bit messy here. Now to me this looks like the perfect piece to kind of slot over there and become a bit of a heel joint. So drop that on, and then this piece here I'm going to put around the front as a bit of a kind of ankle guard. I'll just give it a bit of a trim inside and it can fit on the back. So there we have it, one bionic leg built. Only extra bit I did was I added one of these pipes on. It seemed to just fit nicely between his ankle and the top of his leg. I'll just add a little green stuff around the top just to blend that socket in to his armour and clean up the bottom. But that to me will do. So best get on with the rest of the guy. I'm going to stick his arm on, stick this arm on, and I'll prep his other hand and show you that in just a moment. So for his chainsword arm, we're going to trim this shoulder pad down because obviously this is a reaver arm and this shoulder pad is a bit too big to fit inside a regular marine shoulder pad. So we just need to essentially trim that out. I'm going to take his hand off. Do that from underneath. I'm not too bothered about saving this hand, so I'm just going to do it with a pair of clippers. And then we'll clean up his shoulder. I probably should have done it in the other order. So when you're doing this, you're just going to take chunks off his shoulder and work it down. What to do with this, I want to just bring this arm just in a little bit here. So I'm going to trim just a little bit of the joint off here, level with this side of the arm, because I want his arm to be a little bit further down than the original pose. That's the top of the arm cleaned up, and obviously it fits a shoulder pad in fairly nicely. So we'll pop that on him as well. So I've popped his shoulder pads on, I've put his head and positioned his head and given him a backpack. Next we need to add his chainsword. Now to help mask some of the area in here where I cut off the other shoulder pad, and you can see there's just a bit of muck in there. Yeah, you can just about see it. I'm going to drop a shield onto this shoulder. He's coming together nicely. Now obviously we're going to have to start adding more cool bits to him, making more veteran status. I'm just going to try and cut this up very quickly and see if I can make a decent loincloth out of it for him. After a bit of trimming, I've managed to fit that pretty much well in there, so I'm just going to clean this up and I'll glue it on. That fits neatly enough. That with a little bit of green stuff in, I'll be able to just tidy these joints up and give it some sort of attachment point further up his leg. We're going to add some alien skulls to this leg now. So we've given him an orc skull and a genesteel skull around the back there. I'll add some green stuff just to add some kind of straps to hold it to his belt. Finally, because he's a veteran, we're going to add some purity seals. And so there we have it. With most of the conversion work done, there's just a little bit of green stuffing to tidy this guy up. I've just added some shoulder markings, but equally this guy could be a model for pretty much any chapter you fancy. If you want to see how this guy looks painted, wait a moment and he'll be a little spinny picture in just a moment. So thank you very much for joining us once again here at Cock Dice. We will see you again soon. Good night.